Cam Smith, man, so good to see you. Thanks for spending time with us today. Why don't you tell us where you're coming in from, what you've been up to, and first and foremost, probably the most important, here we are, just about a month into 2025. Cam, where are we at on the croissant count for this year so far?
Oh man, okay. So let me hit those all in reverse order. So the croissants are at 52, but that started in December or in November, then I took a month off, so it only
For the
counts when I'm in
season,
Europe.
I see.
For the
Okay.
season, yeah. And
European croissant count 52, Cam. That's pretty
yeah.
good. And we're talking, usual croissant. What gotta be almost 500 calories, huh? So you're doing pretty well there.
Yeah, so I'm somewhere around a 1.5 DCA daily croissant average.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, we'll
I
see
like
see
that.
how that develops through the season, then maybe make some charts of like the good times and the bad
Yeah.
and see where it all
That's a
goes.
good. I can imagine that. Is that in your training log, Cam? The DCA? Are you
Yes.
putting that,
Yeah,
in Training
it's the
Peaks with
only
all the
thing.
other metrics? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and it's
Do
like
you-
the sticky notes I have on the mirror and everything are just like little doodles of croissants and yeah, all the
yeah.
tricks.
Very good. Yeah, we got to get some end of season charts correlating croissant count, with sort of World Cup results, et cetera.
Yeah, there we go. But anyways, so I'm in Andorra, which is a
Yep.
country in between France
Oh
and
yeah.
Spain,
I've been
where
there.
oh yeah, where the second round of the Skimo World Cup is. So we had an
Yeah.
individual and a mixed relay this past weekend, and just wrapped up both of those, and then we're headed to Spain tomorrow to get ready for the following weekend. And then to continue going in reverse order, it's great to see you as well, Travis, and I'm excited to see where this chat goes. So thanks
Yeah.
for
Yep.
thinking of me, and
Tell
let's have
us
some fun.
how'd that World Cup go? You Team USA. You've been sending in some audio bites that are awesome. The listeners will get a flavor of those. How'd it go there in Andorra?
Yeah, man, it's been really good. So there was a Saturday individual and Sunday mixed relay. And as a team, we were really focused on the mixed relay because this is the very first competition that'll count for Olympic qualifying. So
Mm,
right now, our mission as a team is to earn a quota spot for the 2026 Olympic Games. Right now, we don't have one, which means we don't have any spots to award to athletes, which means we're not sending anyone to the Olympics. So depending on how well we race over the course of the season and then into the beginning of the following winter, we can earn a quota spot to then be represented in the Olympics. So that's everyone's primary goal, or that's the team's primary goal, and what we're here to do. So we had 5 relay teams of one man and one woman each, so 10 of those athletes, and then we had a few additional athletes that were racing the Saturday individual. So they all did great, and that got the weekend kicked off. And then yesterday was the mixed relay competition. So we had 5 teams competing, and we did our best to like use our preseason training camps and national championships results to rank like our top male and top female, second and second, third and third, and going down the line. And went out and put it all to the test against 25 other nations and what saw how it all shook out. So yeah, now the process has finally started, and we had a great start. So what ended up happening was we had Jesse Young and John Gaston qualify into the A final, and then myself and Haley Halfman qualify into the B final. And so John and Jesse finished 11th overall in a really exciting back and forth race with Norway and Slovenia were the teams we were competing the most with there. And that secured us a lot of valuable points. And then Haley and I were in the B final. And so we don't count for the same level of points as the A, but it's nice to gain that extra experience, and we still race through the finals. And yeah, I think we'll serve us well for the rest of the season.
All right, cool. Well, way to go, Team USA. I know that you guys are all working hard over there, representing, like you said, working towards that Olympic goal. And I think that's super cool, Cam, that there's like a team working together, to try to get a spot. And it's probably like that in a lot of sports, like you watch the Olympics on TV and you kind of see who's there, and you don't really realize, like, man, this is a lot of people working hard to make it happen. Cam, for those who don't know, let's take a step back and tell us about these the typical Skimo disciplines. You got the individual, like you said, the mixed relay, the sprint, the vertical. What should people know just very briefly about each of those? And I will say for the listeners, some of these races are on YouTube. The USA Skimo YouTube page, they should still have the videos up from the national championship this year, where I watched you and a number of those other athletes compete. Man, Cam, it was so fun watching on that on that stream, watching you win the vertical. I think you got second in the sprint. The mixed relays were there as well. The individual was super exciting. I think it's one of the world's best spectator sports. What should people be looking for in each of those disciplines?
Yeah, thanks, Travis. I mean, I always looked forward to seeing a text from you after the live stream, knowing that yeah, I had friends and family watching, so that made it more exciting too to know that I had people cheering even if they couldn't make it all the way out
Yeah.
to
Oh
where the
yeah.
races were. Yeah, so breaking down those four events, so it's everything from that 3 minute sprint to a multi-hour team race that can be
Hmm.
6+ hours. So what Skimo sort of started with was these partner races, where just like when you're backcountry skiing, you need to be with partners for safety reasons, for avalanche concerns, and then in Europe more so glacier travel and things like that. And so as the sport kind of developed into a racing competition, there was that, and then they said, oh, what if we made a shorter individual one that we can have on a smaller circuit and make that a separate discipline. So that was where the sport started evolving. Was we had those team and individual disciplines. So that's anywhere from 90 minutes to 6 hours and multiple climbs, multiple descents, technical terrain. And as the sport kind of grew into the World Cup and there were more people paying attention to it and more events happening, they wanted to continue developing like how can we sell this to an audience? How can we challenge the athletes in new ways? So on and so
Mm.
forth. So then came the vertical discipline, which is only uphill. You start at the bottom and finish at the top. And then around 2010, 2011, they came up with a sprint format, which
Mm.
basically takes all the components of the individual race, so skinning, boot packing, transitions, downhills, all that, and put it in this super compact 3 minute course. And so those were all the disciplines for a while. And then going into the 2026 Olympics, there's been a lot of success with other sports. Like I think people have probably seen triathlon and track and field having mixed gender competitions and once
I
those were
love the mixed
debuted,
any mixed relay, man. The 4x4
totally
mixed relay on the track, like so cool. The cycling mixed relay, like the mixed team time trial and stuff, like they're awesome.
exactly.
It's so cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, just like you and I are saying, like they found that people just thought it was really exciting, and they were like, "Oh, let's make a schema version." So the mixed relay is the one that you and I have been talking about. So that's one male, one female. The female will go first. She does two climbs, two descents, and then puts her skins on to come up and tag her male teammate. She rests while he races. He tags her. He rests while she races, and then the male goes a second time. So each athlete is going to do two legs of this course that has two main climbs and then a third really tiny climb just to add transition. So it takes 7 to 10 minutes per leg. So you have a qualifying round where everyone races by themselves, and then the top 12 nations go into the A final. So that's why we were so thrilled to be represented with John and Jesse, because that meant we were in the
Yeah.
top 12 of the 25 nations competing. And then there's a B final with basically the best of the rest. You can only have one team per nation in that A final, and then the B final is yeah, just the next best team. So that's where we're at, and that's what we've all been focused on and dreaming about and thinking about when we can't sleep at 2 a.m. with jet lag,
Yeah.
trying to think about
Yep.
where that third pair of skins is going to go in our suit or crampon pouch or how we're going to roll it or
Yep.
fold it or
Yep.
whatever. That's what's been consuming all of our minds for the last few months.
Yeah. All right, man. That's cool. And again, man, if people aren't familiar with Schemo, if you're wondering what we're talking about, watch this, find it out on YouTube, research camp stuff. It is, I think, a very unique sport in that it is so intense athletically and fitness wise, but also skills wise and intellectually. There's so much going on. And you talk about a race like that, Cam, each person's, sounds like racing 15 to 20 minutes but in two separate chunks, which makes it a unique challenge. And there's all these transitions, all these skills and you have to nail them. The races are so close that if you mess up once, pulling off your skins, putting them back on, whatever, those couple seconds, that'll make a difference.
Totally, yeah, and it's all really exciting because it's all dynamic and changing and
Mhm.
developing as we work towards 2026. And there's growing pains because of that and issues that people have, but there's also really exciting things coming of it. So when the sprint and relay were announced as the Olympic disciplines, there was a lot of pushback because what the recreational athlete wants to do is climb peaks and ski powder, and sprint and relay are not that. They're
Yeah.
on a piste, right? And so there was some pushback initially, and like people wanting to get that more spectacular, natural version of the sport into the Olympics. But the attitude that a lot of us have taken on is this is actually a really fun form of racing. And it just
Mm.
takes all those components of what we like to do for fun, which is the ski touring and the ski mountaineering, and it's putting it into this super compact, exciting format where we can challenge ourselves in this intense pressure cooker and we can still be ski mountaineers outside of that. So there's that component of we're trying to sort of do it all where we're fine tuning these details of, oh, I'm going to roll my skins this way or that way so that I can save a second here or there. And it's still the essence of the sport that we all like. So when we're training, we're still going out in the mountains, and then we're just taking this race format that's really easier for people to watch and easy to have it all put on, be in a compact area, and we just go all out and beat the crap out of each other in that format too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
Oh man.
it and like the sprint for a while, like it was so different because all of the athletes in this sport are slow twitch endurance athletes, and then they're like, oh, let's make a
Mhm.
3 minute event, and it was just kind of the people that happened to still have some fast twitch or maybe be a little younger that succeeded in it because that was all it took. And then as things got more and more specialized, it was like, wow, these like you can't be good in everything, with a few notable exceptions with some of the top World Cup athletes, but you can't really train for everything. And there was sort of additional eye rolling about the sprint in particular. And then when the relay came along, that was about twice as long, and then you have that multiple legs of it. It totally changed the dynamic of which athletes and the demographic of which athletes were successful in it. So taking that effort from 3 minutes to seven and making it repeated, like almost brought those two sides of the sport together where the super fast, tall, big, strong, anaerobic, heavy sprinters and the same people that are winning those classic 6 hour grand course races collide in the relay and they're competing head to head the whole way. So that's exciting too, I think.
Yeah, interesting. Super cool, Cam. And I love how, you're displaying this mental flexibility of, okay, here's the challenge. How do we tweak the training? How do we tweak the attitude? And I would say for me, as a spectator for Skimo watching from afar, that was my initial reaction as well. Like, what I want to see and what we may see in the future
Yeah,
is,
I think
these
so.
awesome, like boot packing up these couloirs. I'm imagining, Pierre Menta type terrain, and we've got drones and we've got people flying down technical terrain. That's super cool, that's fun to watch. But I have found watching the sprint in the relay, that's exciting too, because it's head to head, it's super intense. Like we said, every half second here or there matters. And I think it's interesting what you're saying about the physiological demands, Cam, because if we go length down, kind of your typical, your individual or teams race, that's whatever, hour and a half or more, that's kind of like, if we're to equate it to running, that's like a marathon type of effort. And then the sprint, like you said, 3 minutes, that's like a 800, 1500 meter, it's kind of an endurance race, but it's also just full VO2 the whole time. And then that what you're saying, the mixed relay, that's a little in between, it's kind of the similar time frame to sort of a 5K running, and that's kind of mixing a variety of systems. So yeah, it's fun, it's dynamic, and maybe to switch gears a little, Cam. let's go to your backstory. For the people who don't know, tell us how'd you get in this sport? Where'd it come from? And maybe I'll preface that, Cam. My first memory of you. This is I don't know. I'm 8 to 10 years ago, something like that. We had one of these Skimo races at Monarch here near Salida,
Yeah.
where I live. And I remember racing up. I'm on the first climb, and I'm burying. Everyone's burying yourself, right? These races, like it's just it's all out. And I'm most of the way up this first climb, and I see in the distance this like white and red speed suit. I knew it was the Western, the collegiate suit, and I see above the speed suit this red hair popping out of the helmet. And Cam, I just remember thinking like, who the hell is that, and how are they going so fast? Like, how is it humanly possible that someone is going that fast up this hill? And lo and behold, of course, it was you, Cam. So tell us the backstory. How'd you get into Skimo?
Oh, thanks, Travis. I mean, those are days I miss when I'm over here too, of just the cowboy course might not be marked that well, it might not be broken in that well. We just all
That's
show
right.
up.
That
And
course, we all got off course, right? We were going down.
yeah,
You're supposed to ski down Mirkwood and go up, back
yeah,
up the bowl, and no one did, or maybe most of us didn't. But yeah, that's part of the fun, isn't it?
yeah. And then we all skied a bunch of powder and raced the final climb as hard as we could, and then had a great time hanging out in the lodge after, and probably met
There you
me some
go.
perfect tree slaps that afternoon. But yeah. So thanks for asking. So getting into the sport was just a series of lucky breaks. So I grew up in Rockford, Illinois, like a true Rust Belt city, and somehow found a way out to Gunnison, Colorado, to go to school at Western. So the reason I found out about it is my parents actually met there before moving back to Illinois, and then my older sister was there ahead of me. So it was the last place I wanted to be for a long time, but because I didn't want to do what everyone else did. And then visited my sister. She took me climbing, skiing, and mountain biking on 3 consecutive days, one
Mm,
particularly dry November. And I was like, oh, this is why everyone likes it. So I guess I'll kind of swallow my pride and go out to Gunnison just like everyone else figured out as being the best option you could possibly think of. And I just had the most amazing time. So basically what happened was my freshman year, my sister was kind of shepherding me along, like, hey, you want to be involved in these clubs and you want to avoid these professors and
mm,
come do laundry at my house and whatever. And like we weren't particularly close growing up. And then once we got out there, she became this great like mentor and friend. And
nice.
simultaneously, she was training for the Grand Traverse, which you know well. It's a partner race from Crested Butte to Aspen, so one of those longer, more natural forms of the sport. And she was like, I need a partner and I want to do it with you. And I wasn't super interested. Like, I had actually been to the Grand Traverse start the year before because, like, hey, your sister's doing this event. We're going to go watch her. And I'm like, oh, whatever. And like skied during the day, the days before. But the thing about the Grand Traverse is it starts at midnight. When it came time for her to shove off for the start, I was like, I'm just gonna catch her at the finish. Sometime like late the next morning, early the next afternoon. Why don't I just like sleep through this midnight thing? I'm not
Yeah.
really very interested in watching all these people do this weird thing that I don't understand. And so that was the year before. And then so when she was like, "Oh, do you want a partner for this thing?" I still wasn't super intrigued by it. But it said yes as a thank you for sort of the relationship that my sister and I had formed as students in Gunnison. Now that we'd moved halfway across the country,
Yeah. Yeah.
so bought the gear, some lightweight Hagan skis that were 100 underfoot, and got some Dynafit Speed Radicals and some TLT sixes that are actually still kicking. 12 or 11 years later.
All
The
right.
bindings too are still going, and
Nice.
like just was so hooked on this format of climbing and skiing. So it was almost like the adrenaline and excitement of running up a mountain or biking up a climb, and you get up to these natural vistas, and like it felt like a place that humans shouldn't really be. Like the first time I stood on Red Lady, the mountain above Crested Butte, and it was covered in snow. I was like, this isn't like a place that humans should be. And then so you get that kind of novelty and excitement of it, and then instead of walking back down, you get to make powder turns. So I was just like hooked on the training and loved it, and that kind of led to like, oh, I'm curious about doing these shorter races for training, just to kind of, yeah, figure out our systems for the Grand Traverse and everything, and kind of spiraled from there. So we did that first Grand Traverse. We finished mid pack. I DNF'd a race on my own, and like we finished near the back of some other events, and it's a pretty inauspicious start. But I think a lot of people noticed that I was just young and enthusiastic, and at that time I was the only young person doing a sport in the US. It felt like there were no high schoolers, and then I was the college freshman doing it. And so now there's all these awesome youth programs everywhere, but at first it was just me. And so like all of our friends now, like all the Go CB and John Brown and Brian Smith and Billy Laird and all those guys that you and I are good buddies with, like had that hand me down gear. And so I was kind of collecting some gear and getting some mentorship from those guys. And then that kind of led to me racing a little better. And then I got a little more attention, and it just kind of had a positive feedback loop from there. So it sort of started with that Grand Traverse progression, and then was didn't really have any ambitions to race well. Like I just wanted to participate in these events. And then kind of as I got that more mentorship and support, started having more fun pushing myself, and one thing kind of led to another, and it was a really slow but linear progression season to
Mm.
season. I just kept getting a little bit better each season, and the next thing I knew, it was consuming my life, even though I wasn't really intending to be competitive in the first place.
Yeah. Oh, cool. That's great. I like that slow but linear progression. And to me, as an athlete and coach like that, that sounds sustainable. Which is good. And as we know, as you get to the top level, I mean, you guys are now over there doing those World Cups. It's almost like you have to work harder and harder to make smaller and smaller advancements. But you can. How long, as far as these World Cups, and I believe they all happen over in Europe. How many winters have you done that now, Cam? And what's been the balance? I think it kind of seems like you're in Europe a lot for the winter, but you're kind of coming back to the U.S. some, doing the nationals, maybe doing some of the sort of marquee races in the U.S., whether that's the Power Four, the Grand Traverse, some of these type of things. How's that balance been for you?
Yeah, that's an interesting question too. So, uh, my first World Championships would have been 2017. So I was a junior at Western at that point, and I qualified as a U23. I wouldn't have been fast enough to go as a senior, but since there's that 23 and under category, then I got to participate and then race with the seniors. And so that was a really great first experience, and got to see how much faster everyone was than me. I would have to go
Yeah.
back and look, but I think in that regular individual format, I was probably 45 minutes back or something crazy, like not even in the picture. And it was a fine race, like it went well. It's not like I had this list of issues and ended up
The
there.
level in Europe is high, Cam. Obviously I haven't done
Totally.
much Skimo over there, but I did the Pyramenta last year and I was amazed like how many people are so good.
Yeah, it's so awesome. And yeah, it's inspiring and it's fun, and I'm curious about your Pyramenta experience, but I think
Hmm.
in races like that it's so exciting because you're constantly next to someone, and if you make any kind of mistake, you're going to get passed. Like you kind of end up in no man's land in quieter races in the
Yeah.
US maybe, but in the Pyramenta there's someone breathing down your neck, and there's someone right ahead of you at all times, and the course is constantly changing, right? Like there's some technical kick turns here, and then it gets a little shallower gradient, and then it gets a little higher altitude, and then there's this boot pack mixed in, and then there's this kind of type of descent, that kind of type of descent. It's just so dynamic
Yep.
in that way. So anyway, yeah, started in 2017, and then was just sort of looking for improvement on that World Cup circuit ever since. So every year since then, I've gone back. I missed 2021. I just couldn't get the logistics in order to travel at that point. Every year since then, I've done some combination of World Cups. So some years it's been going over for 3 or 4 weeks and trying to squeeze as many races into that block as I can. And then the last 3 years, each time I've basically tried to move to Europe for the winter. And 2023 and 2024 ended early with some major injuries. And then now we're here in 2025 with a clean bill of health and a whole bunch of gratitude and enthusiasm. And I'm, yeah, starting the process over. But yeah, like you alluded to, I did go home for the holidays just because I thought that that would be good for me in the long term. So I'm engaged to a wonderful woman named Lynn, We got two cute little cats, and
All
I
right.
thought if I could spend a month at home in the middle and like spend Christmas with our families and everything, and ski some powder and work a little bit and just like try to squeeze a Crested Butte winter into 1 month, then I feel a lot better for the rest of the season. So I feel great right now, and I had so much fun being home and getting the opportunity to race our national championships and everything like that. So I took that break in the middle since there was no World Cup racing, and hoping that can carry me through for the next 3 months. So now it's getting towards late January, and I'll be here till April.
Yeah. All right. Good for you, Kim. And I love to hear that gratitude. I think that's a key point for the listeners. It's so important at any level, whether you're a recreational athlete, a new athlete, a pro athlete like Cam, that gratitude is huge. And Cam, I can imagine, for me at least, when we have these injuries, when we have these setbacks, and we can't do something for some period of time, or it becomes more uncertain if and when we get back to being able to do the thing. Yeah, there's the results, there's the objectives, going for the podium, but like, man, just so grateful to be able to do that. Has that been some of your course here, Cam? I mean, maybe tell us about those injuries. I think one year was the ACL, as I recall. About a year later, you're back, you're rolling, you're grooving, and then you hurt your shoulder. How is that journey? Like, what are the highs, and also maybe what are the lows? I know for me, when I've had injuries that keep me out of the things that I love to do, that the injury itself is hard, but what's typically been even harder, and I think this is true for many athletes, is the mental health side of things. Like, it really can take a toll, and you can't do your thing, and you feel pretty unsettled. Tell us about that the last couple of years, Cam.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'd had injuries before. I had a shoulder surgery in 2018 and 2019 just from dislocations and some damage and whatnot. But other than that, had a pretty healthy career to that point, getting up to age 27 or so. And then had a bad crash and tore my ACL at the beginning of 2023. So that turned my world upside down. I packed up all my things and moved back to the US. And so that logistical hurdle was a slap in the face while I have a swollen
Yeah,
leg that I can't walk on.
I'm sure.
So the only two Americans living near me were actually Jim Walmsley and Jess Brazo, and they were like the most amazing neighbors and basically like packed and cleaned my apartment for me while I like sat there directing them. Like, they were so
Oh, that's
gracious.
cool. For those who
Um,
don't know, Jim
and then,
Walmsley, I mean, household name in the world of ultra running, maybe the world's best ultra runner over the last couple of years. Also into Skimo. I think you guys were living in Arèche,
yeah,
France. Awesome. This is
exactly.
like a mystical village in the Alps, folks. It's
Oh
so
yeah.
it's so cool. But you were there. I heard you say in another interview, Kim, you're like the 10th best athlete in a town of, 500 people or something like that.
Right, and like the 20th best in the world.
Yeah.
uh, Yeah, but anyway, yeah, it was great having those two there. But to fast forward a little bit, so got back to the US, went through all the process for surgery, got it all done, and Lynn, who I mentioned, is a physical therapist, so she was instrumental in the whole process and connected me to five other PTs that I worked with throughout the
Mm,
process and got world-class care at Stedman and Aspen actually. And so surgery went great, had amazing therapy, and the whole recovery wasn't super fast, but it went incredibly well. I think because I had so many cooks in the kitchen, I couldn't really move from one step to the other until I had consensus, right? So like maybe the surgeon said, "Hey, I want you on crutches for 8 weeks because I tore my meniscus too and needed a repair." But anyway, but you can like spin a bike at 6. And then one of the PTs is
mm,
like, actually, I don't really want you spinning a bike quite yet because that open chain hamstring flexion might tear or not tear, might pull on that meniscus repair just a little bit. And I want to wait a little longer. And then it was
mm.
basically that for every single possible step of like, I had to have these five different people agree before I could move on.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like quote unquote cleared and ready to go until around 10 months for everything, even though the whole process went super well. But I didn't have a single setback throughout the process. And there
Yeah.
was like maybe half a day here or there where my grass site was a little bit sore. Like it was an amazingly smooth process. So all of that help was just incredible. But it was a grind, right? Like I was working over full time, trying to train a little bit, but most of my focus was on that knee recovery, which was 2 to 4 hours of focused on the knee a day when you add up the icing and the like the mobilizations and the stretching and then the PT exercises and then the strength training and then the jumping and the speed and the power, and it was like it consumed me. And it took everything I had, and I realized at that point like this was either going to make or break me, like this is either going to completely make me want to give up because the whole process is such a mountain to climb, or it's going to make my resolve that much stronger when I get back to it. And the latter was the reality, fortunately. And I got back to racing the following January, so it had been 11 months at that point. Raced a vertical here in Andorra. Ironically, it went great, and had one of my best ever performances. And then the next morning, I tore up that old shoulder injury in a weightlifting accident, and
Wow.
basically restarted the process of packed up my season's worth of things, went back to the US, and went started the whole process of getting pre-op appointments and MRIs and starting over. So I had less than 24 hours from okay, you can go race again to new major injury, and the
Wow.
shoulder
That's amazing,
recovery.
Cam. What a turn, man. Sometimes
Oh my
it's like,
god.
man, you're just riding high, killing it, feeling the flow, and then boom. Um,
hmm
it's
Exactly.
tough.
Yeah, so I mean the shoulder recovery, so that was a lateral J procedure. So they rearranged some of the bones actually, and then some of the attachments on those bones to stabilize that shoulder and basically prevent it from moving again. And essentially that recovery was about half the time as the ACL. And so I knew that going in of like all these timelines are way accelerated, which is what athletes are looking for when they hear a new prognosis, right? It's like, okay, well, when can I do this? When can I do that?
Yeah.
And so it was about half as difficult from that perspective, but it was way harder on me mentally of just having that back to back nature of
Yeah.
is this something that I want to go through again? Is this something that I want to continue pursuing in life? And fortunately was connected with a sports psychologist around that time. I was
Mm.
actually trying to get connected with someone to talk about that confidence downhill skiing as I was coming back from the knee injury. And then in between reaching out to her and having our first appointment, the shoulder injury happened.
Mm.
And so that first appointment came around and I was like, hey, nice to meet you. Hey, something has happened since I filled out that
Yeah.
intake form. And she was wonderful. Her name was Kristen Cooper with the USOPC. Uh, she essentially talked to me a lot about my values in life, not so much in sport. And for a long time, it really frustrated me. Like I wanted her to make me, I wanted her to tell me how to win. Like that's what I want. That's what excites me. We kept talking about my values and my childhood and this and that, and it made and like, oh, is this something you really want to do? And um, it really frustrated me for a while, and I felt like we were sort of butting heads in those appointments, even though I really appreciated her help and friendship. And it she was brilliant because all of that foundational work she was doing circled back to what's important to me in life is adventure and joy and experiences and all these things that sport gives me, and that's the reason I'm trying so hard to do these things, and that gave me a lot of motivation to continue with that shoulder rehab process. So then kind of had that accelerated timetable since it was an upper body injury and I was getting back to running and biking over the summer and had that extra time for the winter. So I had a great summer of running. I called it the Revenge Tour of Joy in small letters because I was angry
Yep.
and wanted to get back to racing, but I was also having so much fun doing it. And ever since that summer and now rolling into the winter, I'm just having the best time just being here, and it takes so much pressure off my shoulders, um, knowing that I get the opportunity to race, whether it goes poorly or not, instead of wondering how I would have done or slotting myself into the results and imagining what would have happened. And um, yeah, it's just freeing me up to chase those results for fun and joy, the joy of it, instead of, yeah, before. So I've gained that perspective. Is that something similar to what you're feeling now after I mean, you've had a really long recovery from your concussion as well. Have you
Yeah.
found a
Oh,
similar?
Yeah, thanks for asking,
Mhm.
Cam. Yeah. I mean, I had, about 6, almost 7 months ago now, a concussion in a bike crash, and yeah, there's been those similar kind of feelings. And hearing what you said, Cam, and shout out to Kristen. It sounds to me like she's doing an
Mhm.
incredible job. What I love, it's like building a house, and like you said, when you build a house, everything has to happen in the right order. Yeah, right? You can't put in the walls until the studs are in, etc. And they all have to line up. And none of it can happen until you have a solid foundation. It sounds to me, Cam, that's what Kristen helped you do, is create that foundation, which in your terms, the values. Like, what do I really value in life in general? And is this sport pursuit, does it fit with those values, or does it not? And there's not a right or wrong answer. It sounds to me though like you were able to clarify, like, yes, this pursuit at this time of my life fits with these values, and that's huge. And there's a huge difference between going into a race with this really tight feeling of, like, I must be on the podium, or I'm judging. Usually it's we're judging ourselves. There's a way different feeling between that and racing as hard as we can and for competition, but also, like you said, with fun and gratitude and community. It feels way different. And I think the latter is faster as well. But yeah, back to my own process. Yeah, honestly, I'm still in it. I'm still kind of wading through that uncertainty. I've made tons of progress. The fact that I can sit here on a video call with you, Cam, like, that would have been totally impossible just a few months ago because of the visual challenges and stuff. So, I'm super grateful for that. And, like, skiing, mountain biking, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if I'll be able to, I can do uphill races. Will I ever do, kind of like we said, the Pierre Mentor or something like that, where, I'm not trying to win, but you're racing downhill on the limit, and you have a much
Mhm.
higher risk of crashing when you're super tired in hard terrain. I don't know. Will I do that again? Maybe so, maybe not. But I am trying to, on an ongoing basis, determine, like, okay, where are those values? How do these other parts of my life fit in, and how does that connect to, the racing objectives, or not? And I would say, yeah, like you, having a team, having mental health professionals, like you said, a sports psychologist, a general therapist, whatever, for me, medications for mental health, etc. That's been huge. I think the team is big. So, with working with Kristen, is that an ongoing thing for you, or is it a here and there? Tell me how that works.
Yeah, it's funny you asked. So, things have shifted a little bit. So we took a break when she was gone for the Olympics, and then yeah, we're working through getting back on the schedule, and things have shifted a little bit with. She's actually left the USOPC, so it's funny you ask. But yeah, we're trying to get back in contact. It's just been more complicated than either of us were hoping
Yep.
for.
Yeah, I think we're seeing more and more. I follow pro cycling closely in many of those teams and environments, that mental health and also sports performance side, which very often they go together. That's a really important part of the team, because that's as much of the foundation as sleep, eating good food, etc.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
it was a
curious
funny
about sort of.
experience.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, well, it was a funny experience because I actually studied sports psychology in college at Western. And so
Yeah.
I
Okay.
took all these classes and like knew all the fundamentals of like, okay, we're taking a class just on the psychology of injury for 3 credit hours for an entire semester. We're taking a class
Yeah.
just on peak performance and learning all these tools. And it was a whole like curriculum worth of just that. And so for a long time, I was like, I don't need sports psychology. Like I studied it. Like I know all those tools and this and that. And then as soon as I got hooked up with an actual professional, then it was like, yeah, starting completely from scratch. Like I realized I'd been missing everything. So
Wow.
yeah, it was really eye-opening to work
Yeah.
with a true professional instead of convincing yourself that that you know what to do on your own.
Yeah, and it's harder with yourself, and that could be training, it could be nutrition, whatever. Sometimes it's easier to, maybe have that perspective of what's going on with someone else when it's ourselves. We're just so wrapped in our own stories and experience that it's hard to see what's going on.
Mhm.
What about the just sort of the day to day year round, Cam? I mean, we listen to this and you're racing World Cups. I mean, you're living and racing as a pro athlete, and I know you've had ongoing support from DinaFit for many years, which of course is great, and they've done so much to support the sport in general. And your trail running, you've been doing a lot of that with via DinaFit, I think as well.
Mhm.
And I think you've also been working like not only as an
Right.
athlete, right? I think CB Nordic Center. You were telling me about I think some special adaptive programs that you have going on there. Like how does that all fit together?
Yeah, that's something I'm constantly trying to figure out too. So I'm gonna pretend like I know what I'm talking about, but instead I'm spending the next however many years I have left in my life trying to find that balance myself. But yeah, I've worked full time since graduating college, but tried to do whatever I could to find flexibility in the winter because I was more passionate about chasing those winter goals than summer. And so as a result, would have these like 50+ hour weeks all summer, but loved racing, so was still traveling on the weekends and doing this and that. And the job that I do in the summer, like you alluded to, the Adaptive Sports Center, I'm instructing, so I'm on my feet for that commitment, and I'm outside and doing whatever activity the participant is doing that day. And so
Yeah,
I've just kind of felt it's been too much trying to train on top of that. Like I'm up at 5, training at work at 8, on my feet until 5, and then trying to get that second session in the evening, and then trying to manage the rest of life
yeah,
while I'm at it. And I've tried to race my best on through all that, and it's worked pretty well, all things considered, because I love that job and I gain so much from it, and I have so much fun day to day, and I learn so much from the participants, from my coworkers, and gain a lot from it. But going into the Olympics in 2026, and I'm 29 now, so as I get closer and closer to yeah, being over 30 in a few months, I just want to go all in this year and next year and see what's possible. And so Dina Fit supported me really well ever since we started working together in 2018, and they've stepped up that support so that I can try to yeah, chase all these dreams with everything I have. So now there's I don't have those limitations anymore of having these packed schedules and just seeing where that takes me. And so I feel really good having that extra ability to focus on recovery and just yeah, having a little more time to yeah, make sure my body's taken care of and my mind's taken care of. And I think it's going to set me on a really positive direction for this winter and then roll into the next summer, and hopefully that builds on itself from there. So I sort of felt like I proved to myself that I could do the hustle and
yeah, yeah.
but sports are such an important part of my life and they're a little more time sensitive that I just want to go all in right now and see what's possible so that I don't have any regrets later. So really fortunate to have that ability, and yeah, it's just come from some really good support from some people that believe in me, and obviously Dina Fit's major piece of that, and friends and family as well. And I'm gonna just try to balance work as best I can. So the details will probably be a little boring to people, but I'll basically try to work a part-time schedule in the summer so that I can stay connected to those organizations and yeah, see if I can do a little bit of everything, but put some more focus into the racing
All
right now.
right. Great. Good for you, Cam. Congratulations. That's hard. Sometimes when you hear about the sports stars or we see it, with oh man, that must be so glorious. And there is like, yeah, there is that. You're right, man. It is a grind. Combining racing at a high level with that full-time work, which I've done and maybe be familiar with listeners. It's definitely a lot. So I'm glad that you've been able to that Dina Pitt's pulling through for you. And I think it's really cool, Cam, that you're keeping a bit of a foot in, especially just with your community and with helping people. Cause I can imagine that probably it helps you keep perspective. It helps probably fuel your fire. It helps you stay grounded. Tell us about that adaptive sports work. Like, who are you working with, and what are you doing? What's the name of the organization, etc.?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So it's the Adaptive Sports Center in Crested Butte, Colorado, and we provide programming, outdoor programming for people with disabilities. That can be any disability, physical, cognitive. The two of us have talked about um,
Yep.
Alzheimer's, of course, and
Yeah.
yeah, so any disability for anyone, and that includes a lot of veterans groups. That includes underserved or at-risk youth. It's a really wide net. We try to be accommodating to all of our participants, and then we do any activity that anyone else would do, basically except fly fishing right now. That's my one qualifier. So we do water sports, which includes rafting and paddleboarding. We rock climb. We have a ropes course. We hike. We do all forms of cycling in the summer. So everything from road biking to downhill mountain biking, and everything in between.
Yeah.
I'm missing something, surely. That's most, oh, like backpacking, camping, some light mountaineering, things like that in the summer, and then in the winter we're basically a ski school. So we're doing all kinds of things on the mountain, all forms of skiing and snowboarding, a little bit of ice climbing, a little bit of Nordic skiing, a little bit of light backcountry skiing, and just matching the person with the activity that they're passionate about and what we can make happen for them. So that's the organization, and my role as an instructor. So I'm one on one or whatever ratio with the people, and so I get to see all the fun parts. Like I'm there for all the moments of people having their breakthroughs and aha moments, but then I'm also there for that 8 hours in the sun. So that's what I'm trying to balance. And what I found, so that 2 winters ago when I was in Europe and had that plan to move entirely and was just trying to do some coaching and remote work. Um, I I had this experience of grabbing something off a shelf for someone in a grocery store,
Mm.
and she said thank you to me or said merci or whatever she said. The memories are kind of fuzzy. And I remember it being the first time someone saying thank you to me in a while. Like it had been several weeks at that point. Like, what am I doing? Like I was waking up every morning, like going to the bakery, getting a baguette and a couple croissants, going back, practicing some French, slowly putting my stuff on, skiing for a few hours, coming back, eating a bunch of food, watching like sitcoms in French, and then having dinner and going to bed. And that was my day. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And then a few weeks went by and I realized I wasn't doing anything for anyone. And then it really hit me in this like small moment of like, wow, I'm actually not doing anything worthy of being thanked, which
Mm.
is eye opening and was like, yeah, it hit me like a train. And so I realized then that I need to stay connected to these organizations, not for other people, but for myself. Like I need to
Yeah.
be connected to those folks and offer them something and just like live a full life in that way. And so that's why I'm trying to maintain some balance. And I think that makes me happier and healthier. And it's funny, a lot of times like we'll work with a participant for 5 days in a row and we have all this growth together and this fun together and we make so much progression with whatever activity that person's doing, and they're so thankful at the end, like I'm just so glad that people commit their lives to helping people like me and this and that, and they have all this like praise for the instructor team, and we all kind of look at each other and say like, guys, like we're doing this because we're having so much fun with you, the participant.
Mm.
Like we're all doing this because it's a blast and we get to be outside, and like seeing you guys and learning from you guys is just as valuable for us as our knowledge is for you. So it's a little less noble than people think in that way. Like I have so much fun just being with these people and having a good time outside.
Yeah. Wow, good for you, Kim. I love it's inspiring me, and almost like that resonates deeply, and I think that's so important. I would say especially for athletes, you know, a lot of what we do, yeah, it is very self-focused. We're very often alone out there in the training and stuff. It sounds like you've been very intentional about maintaining this helping piece and this I mean, human connection, it really is the root of wellness. happiness. And it's so important for anyone. How about, I can tell when you do this work, Cam, I'm getting a sense, and I think the listeners will as well, of that feeling of fulfillment, of connection, of, like you said, happiness, smiling. How about connecting to your values? Is that something you've worked with Kristen, or are there even names or labels of like life values that bring you to this kind of work with the Adaptive Athletes program?
It exactly is just like you lined me up to say. So the four words that we came up with were joy, adventure, kindness, and service. And
Mm,
it sort of turned into I have joy and adventure from the racing and kindness and service from working with our participants at Adaptive. So because of those conversations, I realized I need both of these things in my life. Like I can't, because that was sort of the alternative when I was going through the injuries. Was like, wow, should I just put more energy into my work and take fewer risks with my body and just enjoy this thing that I love so much? Or do I go all in on the racing and take these risks and yeah, live the faster paced life? And I
yeah,
realized because of those conversations, like I need both in my life. And there's a piece of me too that like I just feel like that the work that the whole organization does is so important. Like all of these people and athletes with disabilities need just a little bit of help. Like they just need the right type of bike that's able to be ridden with one leg and one arm, or they just need the right type of climbing adaptation that's able to help someone um, with a cognitive disability have the confidence to be able to make it up something. Like they just need that one tool, or they just need that one person that believes in them, or they just need someone to tell them that it's possible, or like some peers to do it with. And that little bit of assistance can start these positive cycles for the rest of their life of like, I'm scared to cross the street by myself, but I climbed up a rock wall in Crested Butte, and so now I'm not so scared of this daily challenge. And I just feel like it's those people just need such a small push to get such a huge benefit out of it, and they're forgotten by a lot of society. And so I just think that it's so important that that work gets done. And so I feel like if I'm separated from it, then like they'll just hire someone else to do the same job at the end of the day. But in my mind, like you can't live that way. Like if there's something you believe in that you think needs to happen in the world, then you have to just do it yourself. And so that's a piece of it too. So I do feel like I need both those pieces in my life to feel full and to yeah, live my life the best I can.
yeah. Oh man, good for you, Kim. I agree. I love that you said both. I think there's wisdom and nuance in that. And I think even to an elite professional athlete like yourself, that's advice I would give most people. Like, yes, this probably is going to be this athletic pursuit. It's probably going to become a pretty big part of your identity. That's almost inevitable when you're doing it at a high level. But what else is there? What is that both? What's that other piece of your identity, that other thing that's, connecting you back to the greater world, that's maybe providing a career path, if and when athletics aren't a big career component anymore. I think that's really wise. And I love that keyword service as one of your values. And I think what's cool about that, Cam, again, compared to the athletics, is when we go out and race, it can be pretty clear the sort of the scorecards. This race, it was the A+, it was the D-. We can compare our times, our place, whatever. What's awesome about service, Cam, is like that's not really as definable, right? You go out and do it, and there's no quantity to it. And that's awesome. It's a contribution goal, right? It's a social goal. And because that's not definable, like, man, we can get, if you show up and you do the work, like you got an A+ right there. And that's great.
Totally.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and they support each other a lot. Like I know that when I have a poor series of races, it's like, well, there's more to my life, and it's not the only thing that defines where my mental health is at. And then at the same time, I can be on a bike day with a group of our participants, and like one of my co-instructors brings up like, oh, Cam does races, blah blah blah, and then someone's like, oh yeah, actually, Ashley over there is a three-time Paralympian. And it's like put some perspective into like a lot of times it's just not that big a deal that like, oh yeah, Cam does this weird thing and disappears for a few months at a time, and like we're all happy for him and it's exciting, but like uh that's just not important to everyone else right now. And so it yeah is grounding in that way too. So I like how it's not just trying to squeeze everything I can out of both components of life, it's that they're both supporting each other as well.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, perspective. Another more words of wisdom there. At the end of the day, not that big a deal. Something that is a big deal though, Cam, getting married. You guys got
Yeah.
first of all, congratulations. Way to
Thanks.
go. And is there a date this summer, fall, or you're working on it? What's the plan
Yeah,
there?
thank you so much for asking. We're so excited. It'll be this summer in July. We're engaged about a year ago. So we took our time getting it all set up, and we'll basically just hike somewhere with parents and siblings and do a little ceremony and then have a big party a few days later. So yeah, this coming July 2025.
All right, fantastic. Way to go. In the Crested Butte area, Crested Butte, Colorado, folks, if you haven't been there in July, go because it is like, Arrest France, that's awesome. But Crested
It's
Butte,
unreal. Yeah.
while it's the best.
Yeah, just like buried in wildflowers of every color. And yeah, the streams are rushing and the peaks are bright green and white with some snow remaining. And yeah, it's a wonderful time of year.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, this is great. As we wrap up, Cam, give us a quick glimpse. You got a few more World Cups this winter. Are you going to come back and do any of the U.S. events? Kind of what's on schedule for you and Team USA throughout the winter? And then are you looking at more trail running in the summer as well?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I'm all in on the World Cup relays between now and April because that'll be what determines if we earn that quota spot for the Olympics next winter. And the important thing is that it's not just me, because as we saw this past weekend, like people can have bad races. Um, and because we have groups, because we have so many teams, we can all pick each other up. And so it's kind of this fun thing of like none of us will go to the Olympics if we don't earn a quota spot. And so right now it's not about who it is, it's just that we get it done as a team. So it's creating this really fun team environment where we're not competing with each other. Like we need to lift all of each other up just to do it for the country first, and then we can worry about which individual will utilize that spot. But anyways, that's what I'm all in on is racing these next relays. So there'll be five more throughout this season, including
Mm,
the World Championship. And so that's sort of the B goal is to race well personally at the World Championships and have a good showing there. And that'll take us most weekends through April. Um, with a few of those World Cups won't have the relay in them, which makes the math add up. But anyway, then yeah, I'll go into summer running. So I'll have hopefully some new races on the calendar. I'm still penciling it all in, but my favorite events are the Rut and Broken Arrow and Pikes Peak Marathon. And so that's right
nice.
after the Rut, so I'll have to figure that out. But yeah, I found some events that I really like, and then hopefully I'll find some new stuff as well. At the Broken Arrow, I'll try to qualify for the Mountain Trail World Championships in September because that'll actually be a really good thing to focus on if I'm on the uphill or classic team going into the following winter of Skimo. It'll be really motivating to train for fast, explosive running. So that's a goal of mine. I think it's going to be really hard to do this year with some really good depth on yeah, in running in the USA as well right now. And
Yeah.
people are just getting more and more excited about it. And that world championship is getting more legitimized, I think. So yeah, I think that's going to be really tough, but that's what I'm going for. And that'll take us into the Olympic year where hopefully I'm in a good position to, yeah, to be in the Olympics. Or if not, I'll be cheering for whoever earns that quota spot that we're all fighting for.
Yeah. Cool, man. I love it. Sounds like a great plan. If people want to follow Cam, maybe tell us first Team USA Skimo, is there social media? Should we be looking other places on YouTube? I know I've been looking at the ISMF YouTube channel. They come out with kind of mostly highlight videos after each of the World Cups. Those have been super fun to watch. Where else should people look for that? And looking for you in particular with the Skimo and the running stuff.
Yeah, I think so. If people use Instagram, that's a pretty easy way, like following my personal account or the USA Skimo. The ISMF is the International Federation, so that's ISMF Skimo. And then Skimo Stats is an independent organization that just does an incredible job covering all these races, and then they'll cover the non World Cup events as well and do some really good photography and storytelling and all that. So if you use Instagram, that's a really easy way, but fortunately, a lot of people don't use Instagram, and good for those folks. So separate from that, the like ISMF YouTube channels at Olympics.com will live stream all of the relays and some of the other events as well. I don't know exactly uh, like is it the same website every time. I'm not a great person to ask. My mom would be able to tell you exactly where to find the one that's on March 15th and what time it's
Perfect.
happening and when my start time is. So if anyone wants to
All right.
just reach out to my mom, then
We'll
she'll
get
know it
Cam's
all.
mom's phone number in the show notes. In
Yeah,
addition
perfect. She'll
to
love that.
in addition to your great recommendations, Cam.
Yeah.
Nice. I love it. Well, I'll be following along. And final question, Cam Smith, why should people ski uphill?
Oh, great question, Travis. Because it is an exciting way to do all of skiing. So you can climb, you get to spend time outside, you're spending time with friends, you're seeing beautiful views, you're getting stronger, you're taking care of your body and your mind, and then you still get to have the thrill of the downhill after. It just takes all the best parts of skiing and puts them all together, and you sure don't have to race to enjoy it all too. So it's an amazing sport. It's the best sport in the world. It's really hard to access, unfortunately, which is why it's not more popular than basketball and soccer. Um, but if people have the luxury of being close enough to mountains to do it and can access some gear, then it's the most beautiful sport in the world. So I hope people get a chance to try it out one day.
All righty. I love it, Cam. Always good to spend time with you. Thanks again for coming.